I want to talk about selecting colors and how that's done. And I'm going to show some color wheels. I just bought a color wheel recently, a color wheel tool. I'm not really finding it that useful. I think I just like to go by what looks good to me and what's suggested by the yarn lines. I think the designs always suggest to me kind of what colors they should be in. My design process is that I come up with a design and then I choose the colors. I do an illustration in my software tools. And then I try to select a yarn line that matches or has a lot of the colors that I'm looking for in the design. Because that is never a quite perfect process, and sometimes I can't find exactly a line that matches it, or when I contact the manufacturer and ask for yarn, they tell me certain colors have been discontinued, and so I always have to tweak the yarn color selections. And then I also have these kind of go-to colors that probably a lot of people, you probably have these too. So here's one of my go-to colors, which is purple and aqua. I use that in perpetual motion, and then I added a few other color pops. These two colors plus fuchsia were really popular in the 90s. And I think my 3 daughters that grew up then were dressed in those pretty often. And then I also love blues and greens, or like blues and greens plus yellow. And so there's 4 blankets that are done in these kinds of color schemes. And then I love scrappy designs. So we have Starry Skies, Picnic, Kaleidoscope, Brick Rack, Sunburst, and Shadow. I like to use either like all the colors I can get my hands on, or sometimes I'll eliminate a color or two to make it look like a little more uniform and planned. And then I also love black and white. Echoing Escher, Metropolitan, and Starry Skies feature some black and white designs. I tried to restrain myself from having too many black and white blankets. So I have 4 blankets here where I show how the color selections were done. So the first one is the Petals blanket. Petals is actually the same design as the Carnival blanket, except for this one has to be worked in blocks. So it can't be worked modularly. It has to be worked in blocks and sewn. So I was originally going to illustrate it in Canadiana, which is a line in the Petals brand, but Spinrite, who's the owner of that company, said that those colors in that particular line were being, quote, refreshed, which I think means that they were going to retire a bunch of them and introduce some new ones. And so they pointed me at Patton's Alpaca Blend, Chunky. And so I looked at those and I liked those colors as well. But whereas the original illustration is kind of more blues and oranges and gold, I felt that the colors that I really liked in the Patton's Alpaca Blend were these kind of teal colors and also these rust colors. I thought those would look really cool together. I don't like to have a ton of colors because when knitters are buying yarn, they are going to have a lot of leftover yarns. So I eliminated the colors that were definitely not working with the teal and rust. I'll just go back. So here were the colors again. So I eliminated these pinks and reds, and I eliminated the purples, and I eliminated the Kelly green. And so then the next step was to eliminate the redundant colors. And so like here, we've already got 2 kind of greeny teal, and then we've got this one over here. So I eliminated this one at the top right. And then I had this nice rust, and I had this sort of more gold rust color. And so I eliminated this darker rust. Again, limiting the number of colors is a good idea. So I eliminated those redundant colors. And then the next thing I did was for light and dark and color balance, I eliminated 2 more dark colors. And so I ended up with this set of colors, which in the pattern are labeled with letters. And I felt like this was a good balance because I had colors that were going to read as light colors. I had some like nice warm colors. I had these 3 warm colors. I had cool colors. And I had a nice balance between light and dark. And I've learned from my quilting friends that these red colors always read as darks. So it's good to have a light and dark balance, warm and cool balance. Here is the updated illustration using Patton's Alpaca Blend. Here's the final sample photo from the book. Here's the next one. This one was a lot more straightforward. Starry Skies, I wanted bright jewel tone stars, and I wanted to have white and black background shapes. I decided to use Line Brand Heartland yarn, which is an acrylic. It's great yarn. Really glad I used it. I'm using it for another design now. The jewel tones that kind of popped out at me were this Isle Royal redwood and these 3 colors here, and this beautiful kind of Yellowstone color here. And I needed a black and white, which this line had as well. I could eliminate all the things that were not jewel tones And I ended up with just the 6 jewel tones and the white and the black. And here's the final knitted blanket. So they never turn out precisely as the illustration looks color-wise. With this yarn in particular, it has some color variation in it, and I think that makes things look a lot more interesting. So here's diamond rings. I did an illustration of this. I wanted there to be these 2 diamond patterns that I was outlining using a little bit of black triangle. So there was an outer one and an inner one. And I got this illustration done and I was like, well, it's okay. But I felt like it was too bright and it was too pink. Although I have nothing against pink, I like pink and I've used it in a lot of the blankets. I just didn't want to have a blanket that was predominantly pink. So I recolored it in blue. So I still had a little bit of pink around the edges, but it was a lot more unified. And I felt that this diamond pattern emerged a little bit better for me. I chose Anzula for better or worsted yarn. They're based in Fresno, California, and they have an amazing yarn line and they have all the same colors and all their different weights of yarn. So it's really crazy. And they have so many colors. There were so many colors that I got a little confused. And so I requested a photo of all the perspective colors, all the blues and these pinks that I was trying to figure out which one I wanted to use. They pulled all those yarns and then took a picture of them all together, which is so useful. And then I was able to decide, I circled the ones here that I decided to use in the final design. And here is the final blanket photo. Turned out like a little bit different in hues than what I was planning, but I like it. All right, so the last one I'm going to feature in terms of color selection is shadow play. Shadow play has these sets of 8 blocks, and they're arranged so that the background, these triangle shapes that are in each block, those are dark, and then the foreground stripe is a light color. And so what I needed to do was pick 8 dark colors and 8 light colors. In looking at this line, what really attracted to me to this initially were these burgundies, this tealy green, and this olive green called pesto. And so I chose those to anchor the design as the dark colors. And so I'll just add those here. This is where they ended up in this unit here. And so the next thing was that I decided that this was really going to be about the mauves and the purples and the teals. This was not a scrap blanket. And so I wanted to, or not entirely scrap. So I wanted to eliminate the colors that didn't feel like we're going to really fit in with that. And so I eliminated all the yellows and the oranges and the reds. I'm going to now disappear those colors through the magic of PowerPoint. And so now what I have left here is still a lot of colors. And so I needed to pick 4 darks from this set to be the other 4 darks that are in this set of 8 blocks. I ended up picking these colors that I've got in the pink highlights. There's a green, there's a kind of a dark purple color or a plum, and a burgundy and violet. The next thing is to eliminate the remaining dark colors and to see what's left, because now I need to pick some light colors to be the stripes. I thought that these 2 colors, this bright aqua and the bright fuchsia here, those are too bright for this design. I didn't think that they would really work. And I just wasn't feeling this mint green. And so the ones I didn't want in the design, and this probably was a little too dark and I already had enough purple. So I down selected from the light colors and I ended up with the ones that are still left on this page. So those got assigned to the 8 block. And so this ended up being the final coloration of the unit of 8 blocks that is repeated over and over on this blanket. On the left is the illustration for the colors that I selected. And on the right is the blanket sample. And I kind of didn't really predict exactly how light the light colors were going to be. I was pretty flexible. It would have been okay as illustrated, but I think it also looks okay in the final sample.
Jen, what are some of the questions that have been posted in the chat?
So Pam says, wow, so many beautiful blankets. Do you have a favorite? And was there one that was a real challenge for you and like when it came to developing the pattern?
It's hard to have a favorite when you have like 30 children. I don't know if I have a favorite. I think when the blankets came in, I didn't really know which ones I liked the best until they came in as samples. And I think I really liked Pulsar. I like Carnival, like Prisma. I've always loved Prisma. And I've liked all the samples of Prisma, the one that I have, the one that Julie did. This is Pueblo. I really like this blanket because it goes with my house. Yeah. And I really liked Verdant too. I loved the yarn. I loved that it was worked in DK and it was like just different from all the other blankets. I think sunburst might have been the most difficult to design because I had a lot of trouble getting how to turn a circle into a square. And again, as I mentioned, Sonia helped me a lot with that and kind of refining that. And I had it 95% there. And then she made the final adjustments that really made it work. So it's great to have sample knitters who have the patience and the insight and the willingness to work in that collaborative way with me as a designer so that things can get refined and as perfect as they can be.
Next up we have, I think it's each here. What percentage of the blankets are sew versus no sew?
Can I share for just a minute again? And I'll show you, I want to show one slide.
Absolutely.
So this is at the front of the book, and so this is a Venn diagram, and it's showing construction techniques used in the blanket. So each circle is a construction technique. And notice that around the entire thing is a shape as well. And it says pick up and knit. So this means that every blanket in the book uses pick up and knit. So if you don't like that technique, you're kind of out of luck with this book. So they use it to different degrees. The ones that most strongly use the sewing skill are the ones that are in this green area of sew blocks and strips together. There's all the ones that are outside the sewing bubble that don't have any sewing. So that's these ones in this area. I hope you can see my little cursor going around. Some have less sewing. Like I think we looked at Starry Skies. Starry Skies only has a little bit of sewing. Picnic only has a little bit of sewing. And then there's, some of these options here, like where it says B, sometimes there's an option that requires less sewing than the other options that are in the blanket for the construction. I think there's like maybe 10 or 11 or 12 that don't require any sewing. So yeah, tumbling is out here as well. That doesn't require sewing. Pueblo, Starry Skies, Hip to be Square, Method D. So there's quite maybe half of them. I'm not really sure. So, because some of them have multiple methods. So they're out here in the no sewing sphere. Okay, that's what I want to show.
That's great.
Yeah, that's a great chart. Thank you.
Yeah. Julie asks, like in regards to Carnival, would you be able to use DPNs or to use circs or circulars?
Rachel maybe should answer this. I don't know if she's still on the call. Rachel?
Yep, I am. I did use DPNs for most of the petal shapes, but once, I don't know, I can't remember, there were maybe 26 stitches on each curve. So when you go to put 4 of those curve shapes together, I used circular needles until it got small enough to go back to double points.
Mm-hmm. That's there's some instructions at the beginning of the book that basically say that you can start on circular needles and then move to DPNs or to a magic loop or some other technique to accommodate the stitches, right?
Yes.
And this question's more for sample knit. Was like the yarn amount pretty true to the book? I know that's a loaded question, and everyone's different in their gauge. But
yeah, for me, I matched the gauge on the yarn, so I had extra, which was a great position to be in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's the one thing that's important about gauge and blankets is that if your gauge is off and you're not getting as many stitches to the inch, then you're using more yarn. You'll be running out of yarn while knitting the blankets if you just buy the amount that's there. But yeah, yarn amounts for me are hard, and they're hard for the sample knitters because I try to estimate as accurately as possible, but I make mistakes. And so sometimes we have to stop because I have to get more yarn. And during COVID, that has really been bad because a lot of times the manufacturers are out of it.
I know my blankets, I think I always had enough yarn, but we ended up having, for the Pulsar, there was one color that was so close to a different color. So we ended up just changing the colors towards the center. So I had to wait to get more yarn for that. But overall, yeah, I think we've always had enough yarn.
Mm-hmm. I think Julie has run out of yarn probably more often than she would like to say.
And I'm a tight knitter, so that's probably why.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the other thing is like, when you're designing off of color swatches that you see on the web, A lot of times the manufacturers, they're not photographing under the same lighting conditions or photographing at the same time, and so it's really hard to pick colors because they don't look the way they look online. And so sometimes that would be a reason that we'd have to wait and get more yarn, is because the colors just weren't working, or they were too close together. They read as the same, two colors read as the same color in the design, and then that just doesn't work. That's the beauty of having the book. If you're going to knit from the book, you have those all picked out already. Here's my cat. She's always here.
Marcia would like to know, I know this is a book for knit patterns. Do you have any plans to expand to maybe crochet patterns as well? I know a lot of times design principles will apply to crochet as well, but would you do a crochet book in the future?
Well, I have this other blanket pattern called Safe at Home blanket that you might have seen. And I did do a Tunisian crochet version of that one because it was, it was amenable to that. I don't know how many of these blankets would really work for crochet. Tunisian crochet works really well for geometric shapes. It has same property. Well, I didn't get to go into that, the geometry of garter stitch, but it has the right geometry. Whereas like single crochet and double crochet don't really have the same geometry as garter stitch. So I haven't decided. And I mean, I do crochet. I'm not a big crocheter. I do it in order to facilitate mostly my knitting. And if I was going to do crochet versions, I'd have to do it in concert with experienced crocheter.
What program do you use to illustrate your designs and just kind of design in general?
So I can put together geometric designs very quickly in PowerPoint, and I can color them, do the illustrations, and then you can actually export PowerPoint illustrations into something called scalable vector graphics. And the Illustrator can read in those SVG files. Then you can continue in Illustrator to do the kinds of things that Illustrator does better. And then I use Excel extensively, especially when I was doing sweater patterns. I would do the entire pattern in Excel because I had to do grading. And that's where you're adjusting the pattern to work in different sizes. You need to do a lot of mathematical calculations for that. So I started using Excel a lot in those days.
Awesome. We have one more question from the list above. Let's see. Mandy asks, do you have any formal knitting education, or do you take any, have you taken like design classes, or maybe like do you teach?
My mother taught me how to knit when I was 10. She's a very patient woman. I have no formal knitting education. I haven't not done the master class or anything like that. I do think that experience is the best teacher, and especially I've, designed a lot of different types of garments and pieces. I have not taken any design classes. I do not teach. I guess the most teaching that I do is working with the sample knitters, and I think we teach each other a lot of stuff.
Someone wants to know, what's the blanket that you have on your chair?
Yeah, this is the Safe at Home blanket. I designed it actually after I designed all the ones that are in the book, and I was going to include it in the book, but then my tech editor and a couple other people that looked at it were like, oh, that really doesn't fit in with the rest of the blankets because it's not abstract. It's actually of something from life, right? Inspired by the way we live in houses. And so I decided to put that out as an indie pattern. And then COVID started. And just as I was about to put it out, I was trying to think of a name. And I think it was Julie that suggested, my sample knitter who's on here, I think I was working at Stay at Home or something like that. And I think she suggested Safe at Home. So that became the name of this blanket. And I think the name actually kind of helped it sell. So because it's become a fairly popular design on Ravelry. And this one is worked in this yarn that I love. I love the colors, Malabrigo worsted. It's like you can't go wrong with these yarn colors. Like whatever you put together seems to work out well. And people thought I was such a genius at color. And it's really, a lot of it's due to this great yarn.
Margaret, I have one quick last question here from Sally. She's in Australia, and she's wondering if you had any future plans to have any of the patterns kind of like translated, if you will, to more like English style vernacular, I guess, vocabulary.
I'm not sure I understand the question, but do you mean
I think like knitting terms can be different?
Oh, yes. I don't currently have any translation plans. I mean, I have this dream that there would be like a universal knitting language, but maybe that's a crazy dream. But, as a designer, it would be great to give access to everyone easily. And someone needs to design a universal knitting language. But no, I don't have any, I don't have any practical plans to translate the book right now into other languages, if that's the question. Maybe that could come along eventually if there's demand for it. Do you guys want to hear what my next plans are? Do you want me to finish with that?
Yes.
Yep. There we go. So what's next for the book? I'm going to start some CALs once more people have the book or once people are clamoring for them, if they would clamor for them. I don't know. And I was thinking about having one for beginning knitters that might feature maybe the shadow play blanket. So then I was thinking I can't have 30 CALs because I can't really monitor that many. And so I was thinking about grouping the blankets by the techniques that they use. And so that way the different have fewer CALs, but they would be kind of focused on the same sets of techniques and challenges. And then I'm looking forward to interacting with knitters, expanding the extras website and hints and tips and maybe more color ideas for the blankets. I think that would be really fun. Since the manuscript was turned in like over a year ago now, I've been doing a lot more blanket designing in the meantime. So I have 24 additional geometric blankets that are in the works. So some of them have been knitted and I have them here at my house, like ready for photography. And I'm working with the same sample knitters pretty much and the same yarn companies. And I haven't really decided what to do with those patterns, whether there's going to be a follow-on book or whether I'll put them out as indie patterns. I'm waiting to learn from this book to see what I should do with my future patterns, how to get them out to the most people and knitted. And then I took a little break from the geometric blankets because an online company approached me about doing some holiday blanket designs for them, like in the geometric style. And so I did that. And I had a design for a set of holiday pillows and I worked that up. And so those are all going to be published as individual kits by that store in October of this year. I do have a newsletter. So when I have like new patterns that go out, if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll hear about it, or you can just check my website. So, and then I have these From Life blankets, of which the Safe at Home blanket is one and Safe in the City. And then I have another one called Safe at the Sea. And so there's 7 designs like that of different kind of themes. Not all of them are houses. They're just kind of different things from life or the way we live or life forms. And so I'm going to probably do some more designs like that and maybe have a collection of those. So that's what I've been doing since the book.
Excellent. And everyone give Margaret a big round of applause. Yay. Wasn't that fabulous?